Pandemonium Reigns.
Vols are now 8-2 on the year, coming out with a loss Saturday night against the Bulldogs, 31-17. My name is Dan. This is Pandemonium Reigns. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and processing this loss as we look back on Saturday. I have a lot of thoughts that I want to do my best to unpack as we talk about this thing. I want to eliminate some excuses, and I want to do my best to see this glass half full. I love that you guys have finally getting to see the kind of Michael that I know. That's pissed off Michael. And I get why a lot of Tennessee fans are like that. I really, really get it. I'm just not in that camp. I get it. I understand it. But I think I'm just viewing this through a different lens. And I do believe that I'm a part of the minority. And there's a lot of Tennessee fans that are just absolutely ticked off. And I get it. I do get it. So what I want to do, I want to unpack some things, unpack some thoughts, and maybe try to shift some of your ideas and thoughts and perspective on this whole thing. Again, make sure you hit like and subscribe on this. Appreciate you tuning in and hanging out with me. Let's start by talking about what everybody else is talking about, and that is the officiating. I'm not going to blame our loss on officiating. It's not going to happen. I do believe that there were calls that went against us. Yes, it happened. But here's the problem with that. It's happening in every single game. It can no longer be an excuse. And there are things that we could have, would have, should have done that would have flipped potentially the outcome of this game. I am under the impression that some of these calls, missed calls, whatever you want to call them, had they gone the other way, might not have necessarily impacted the win-loss column, but they could have impacted the scoreboard, essentially the outcome of the game. I love that Josh Heupel, I love his post-game interview, the way he handled it. He's not allowed to say the certain things, so he turns the microphone around on the beat writer and has him say it again out loud for the people in the back. I don't necessarily fall into the same camp of belief that he does on the outcomes of some of these calls. So let's talk about them. You've got the face mask call. I don't need to explain this. I don't need to show you an image. If you watch this game, you know what I'm talking about. Here it is at the end of the day. His fingers got up underneath the helmet and he yanked just a bit. It's face mask. The title of the penalty might be called face mask, and his face mask itself might not have been grabbed, but the helmet did, and the helmet was tugged on. By rule, that's a face mask. It's a good call. I don't like it. I hate that he did it, and I hate that it played against us. But it's a face mask. Let's talk about the false start or the lack of false start called on Carson Beck. He moves before the ball is snapped, and there's so many people on Twitter saying, "Check the rules. Look at the rules. It's fine. It's fine. It's legal." Then why is that usually called? I'll give you a second to think about it and respond. Why is that usually called? If that's the rule, okay, fine. But my only issue was that is usually called. That is usually called against the quarterback. It so rarely happens because it's the quarterback, but it's usually called. So I don't know what the rule book says, and frankly, at this point in time, I don't care what the rule book says because I'm more upset with the inconsistency. Let's talk about the 12-man on the field. And again, all these penalties, I don't need to show you images. I don't need to show you videos. You know what I'm talking about. Jackson Moy does not get off the field in time. And there's actually a very interesting report from Trey Wallace. You should go follow him on Twitter at Trey Wallace _ who was right there next to Coach Heupel and the referee during this exchange. But anyway, nonetheless, Georgia subs, we sub, and then we do another sub, resulting in Moy getting off the field later. There was a point in time in the history of this game when a sub was made, the guy coming off the field sprinted off the field to avoid this penalty. And then it just disappeared out of nowhere. What's my words? The enforcing of this rule we started playing into the hands of slowing offenses down. And I can see why a ref wants to do that. Sucking wind, whatever. But these defensive players are coming off slower to give the rest of their defenders who are on the field, another breather. It's just to mess up tempo. It's stupid. I mean, everybody's doing it, and it's happened to us 1,000 times this year. And here's my issue with it. It's a penalty. It is. He was on the field when the ball was snapped. But how many times has that happened to us this year? Where they will stand over the ball and they will not let that ball be snapped. How many times have we in the past have come so close to the play clock expiring or expiring on us because of that mess? That's just ridiculous. It's inconsistent. And I'm not saying we should have won. No, I'm not. I'm saying fix the game. Just fix the game. Choose one and enforce it. The inconsistency is driving us all mad. All right. So fix it. It's a penalty. It's a penalty. Change the culture of this game by enforcing a rule. Let's talk about the defensive pass interference. I believe that was Malachi Starks on Squirrel White. Squirrel White, as Mike has pointed out, has got some kind of issue going on because if that ball is high, he's not going to reach up and grab it. He's going to try to jump up and grab it. Whatever, beside the point. When you freeze frame that, it's clear. Malachi Starks was early. But here's where I'm okay with it. It's so bang bang when you watch it real time, which they don't ever play. When they show a replay, they don't ever show anything in real time anymore. Everything looks so clear and favorable or one-sided when it's slow-mo. Watch it real time, bang bang. I'm actually okay with the no call. I'm okay with it because that is so frequent. I'm getting to the point where I'm about to show you the lack of the no flag that I have a real and serious problem with. If you are watching on YouTube, you get the privilege of seeing this. This video is provided to you by that of Cole Kubelik, who played offensive line at Auburn and who loves to break down field. I really, really enjoy his show. I believe he gives raw insight, unbiased perspective. Anyway, nonetheless, Georgia out of the gun runs a toss sweep to their back, and they run it to the boundary. The center gets a free release on the line of scrimmage, shoots straight to the left, crosses the face of Ricky Gibson. Okay, so just ignores him as a defender for whatever reason. After he has completely crossed him, reaches back with his right hand and grabs him at the collar. Imagine like where your bow tie would be, right up underneath the face mask. Grabs that and begins to pull him back the other way by that, gets him close to him once he's got that position, and then drives him to the ground. What the heck is that? Don't give me that's just football. No. Cole Kubelik's words, the Undertaker would be proud. That's not football. There are some other complaints from Tennessee fans I saw where things should have been called a chop block. I believe, let me think about this. John Campbell was engaged with the defender and a blitzing backer goes out of his way to hit him first and then pursue the cue. I'm fine with that. That's just being physical. But that mess, what this center did, that's ridiculous and totally uncalled for. That should be a penalty. All right, let's talk about the rest of this thing. Let's talk about the actual game. 31-17 loss. Here's what this comes down to. Going into this season, I predicted this game to be a loss. We thought this Georgia team was just going to be absolutely elite. Once they lost to Ole Miss, I was even more certain of this loss. Why? Because really good teams, say what you hate them as much as you want to, They're still a really good team. I understand Carson Beck struggles. I get the drops. I get all that. But the sign of a good team is when they are backed up against the wall, they fight. And listen, y'all, Tennessee fans, we got outcoached. We got outplayed. That's why we lost by 14 in Athens. Outcoached, outplayed. Georgia was more physical. They were more aggressive. Uh, Chalk that up to play calling schemes. I don't care. I mean, it doesn't matter. Outcoached, outplayed. Michael made a really good point about how we handled things defensively, how we continued to run the same stunts. I mean, here's the deal. We've been carried by our running game and our defensive front the entire year. Those two units have won us our ball games. Nico has been troublesome, inconsistent, not good enough, whatever you want to call it. Nonetheless, carried by our running game and our defensive front. Dylan Sampson did his job. Sampson did his job. Our defensive front did not. You want to chalk that up to Banks? Sure. I don't care. Where I'm going to slightly disagree with Michael and saying that we should have blitzed more or, whatever. I mean, we've been able to get pressure all year with 4. All of a sudden, we hit a brick wall. And where I am going to agree with him is saying, once you realize that you're not getting it, you need to adjust. And we just didn't. We just didn't. And is that pride? Is that, thinking that things are going to change once you chew them out on the sideline, saying, hey, we're leaning on you guys, you're not doing it? Is it a schematic thing or a personnel thing, thinking, hey, like we don't have the ability? We're really concerned about getting picked apart through the air. If that's the case, that happened regardless. Carson Beck threw for 347. Okay. So the things that have carried us all year didn't carry us. It just wasn't good. The defensive front wasn't good. No sacks. I don't think there were. Oh, this is bad podcasting. No sacks, 2 tackles for loss. Who provided those tackles for loss? James Pierce, Bryson Eason. I know Pierce's came off the stunt. I do remember that. You got to do better. You have to be better. And Michael is saying that, I keep referencing him. You should really go listen to it. It's solid. That our I don't think I'm putting word. I think I got this right. That it's 10-2. That what we're doing 10-2 is what you're going to get. And what I see instead is like just a steady incline. We're just continuing to get better. It's going to be rough. Could be rough next year with all the losses and other potential losses that we're going to experience. I have no reason to believe, though, as far as 25 goes, that Heupel's not going to find a way. I think he found a way this year. I think that he knows flaws that we don't necessarily know, and he has played to our strengths and has done a good job in masking, for the most part, our flaws. So, with that said, everybody just needs to chill out on Nico. Sometimes it just takes people longer than it does others. And if you want to say, well, then it shouldn't be worth $8 million, I guess that's your right. But everybody is different. In the long run, I am under the opinion that he's going to be worth every penny. It's just taking him longer. And with that said, everybody's question regarding 2023 and whether he should have been the quarterback or not, that should be answered by now. QB1 was Joe. Moving on. Defense just wasn't good enough. It just wasn't good enough. And we've got to be better on the road. One of the next steps that we have to take as a program is being better on the road. If you're going to have to choose being better at home or being better on the road, you don't want woes at home. I mean, we got a really good thing there. You want it to be on the road, so this is the poison of your choice. However, at this point, it's just got to be better. Some people are going to argue 22 South Carolina. I'm also not underneath that camp. I'm a bit of a conspiracy theorist, therefore I have all the reason to believe that South Carolina cheated their pants off that game. Props to Beamer for what he's doing this year, though. Is he cheating? Who knows? Wouldn't be surprised. Defense has got to be better. Defense has got to be better. Defense has got to be better. especially when the way we've leaned on you all year, and maybe it's just a fatigue thing. Maybe they just grew weary. I don't know. It could be because Georgia's offensive line is massive and they're really good. Um, let me hot route just for a minute and talk about that for a second. Everybody's really upset, Tennessee fans, because we didn't get this win, and we just this is a tall task. Here's the truth. This was the year to get them. It was. It's been since 2016. 17 was not going to happen. 18 was not going to happen. 19 was not going to happen. 20 was not going to happen. 21 was not going to happen. 22, 23, no. 24, it can be done. So this was your shot in a really long time at pulling this off. And I'm not going to say you wet the bed, but you left a lot to be desired. So I think that's a lot of Tennessee fans' frustrations, and I understand that. But at the end of the day, I know how Carson Beck has been. I get that. I know how they've played all together. But they're still really dang good. They're really good. It's not like they're shy on talent. It's not a roster issue. I mean, they're all getting arrested for driving over the speed limit, but they're still really, really good. It's kind of like that whole Clemson thing where Clemson dominant and they just wasn't living up to Clemson standard. Kind of the same thing. Georgia's just really good, not living up to their own standard. You have to see it through that lens as opposed to, whatever other lens you're looking at this thing from. Still really, really, really good roster football team. Still, you're hate to say this, but you're arguably talking about the best coach in the game. He went back to back. Still really good. Carson Beck is still really good. Carson Beck proved Saturday night that he still got it. That first touchdown, was it the first? He threw a touchdown, I want to say to Lawson Lucky or Delp. I don't remember which one it was. Both of those guys look the exact same. 4 and 7, whichever one. His ball thrown with such anticipation. It's excellent. It's absolutely excellent. And again, my only complaint to that is just no pressure. Just no pressure. And it just wasn't generated. Going to the offensive side of things, I said going into this, whatever episode that was, is that you got to have more out of Peyton Lewis. If he's going to be halfback 2, you got to have more out of him. And for the touches that he got 6 of them. He was 5 yards per carry with a long of 16. Better. Probably his best night on the year, in my mind. Touch for touch, carry for carry, if that makes sense. You got what you needed out of Samson. He got 19 touches, which I believe he got, 19 in the first half against Mississippi State. So, nonetheless, you got what you needed out of him. I think carry for carry, he was better. His long of 27 was able to get him over the 100-yard mark, but carry for carry, he was solid. Nico, I was a little surprised at what Michael said about Nico and how, I think statistically it wasn't bad. 20 for 33, I don't hate that. 167, that's it. You got to get more. You have to be balanced, more well-balanced when you play a team like Georgia. This is a championship caliber team at home at night. You have to be better. I do think snap to snap, play to play, he was probably better overall. I think the biggest difference that I saw in him was that when we were at Arkansas, he looked starstruck, kind of lost, like the moment was too big for him. I didn't think that here, and that could just be maturity in his play, confidence in knowing what to do, experience, whatever. Knowing what he's got in DeSamp in his defense, I don't know, but I didn't find him to be stargazed, and I was encouraged by that. There's a chance that he's going to be a Tennessee Volunteer longer than people were originally anticipating. His development might be slower. I still think he's got a really, really high ceiling, and I don't think he's scratching that surface yet. I think it's going to start to come together. Overall, though, as a program, things on the road, offensively, you got to be better. I'm not really going to punish the ground game. I'm going to come after the passing attack. Kitzelman was our leading receiver, 46 yards on 4 catches, which great to get him involved, but it's almost like if your safety's your leading tackler, you've got issues. If your tight end's your leading receiver, especially if it's only for 46 yards in an offense like this, I got issues. I would have liked to have seen more shots. I think that would have opened up the run a little more. However, at the same time, as I look back right off the top of my head, I don't know when you would have taken those. Maybe I should go back and rewatch it, but I don't think that calls into question. Oh my gosh, his name escapes me. The Auburn receiver. He's now our receiver coach. I don't think that calls into question his job. I think the only one that we should be talking about is Ellerby. The problem with this is that we just don't ask our offensive line to win games. It's not what we do. However, what we thought was going to be a strength for this team going into 24 has been a bit of a liability, especially at the tackle position. I think we know what we're going to get with an Ellerby-led offensive line. They couldn't know what we're going to get. It might be time to make a change, and I'm going to agree wholeheartedly with Michael here. Coach for your job, pal. It's time, dude. Put him up or shut up. I like him. I want him to work out here. Him and Heupel are longtime buddies. I would love to see him stay and get it figured out. He's probably a large part of the reason we landed a guy like David Sanders, which if you're expecting David Sanders to come in 25 and to be everything that he's been hyped up to be, stop doing that because you just never know until they take the field. But Ellerby has got to do better, especially in 25. 25, we're losing 4 of our 5. And Cooper's a big piece. A gigantic piece. And I don't mean due to size. I mean into his football knowledge and what he is able to do for Nico at the line of scrimmage pre-snap. So losing Cooper Mays is going to hurt real bad. That one's going to hurt. I think William Satterwhite is your number 2 center, probably your starter next year as of now, but whatever. What this comes down to, you got to be better on the road. You got to be better on the road. You got to be better on the road. You have to be better on the road. If you're going to put yourself into a classification with the elites like the Georgias and the Bamas and the Texases now and the Ohio States, you got to be better on the road. You have to be better on the road. We got outcoached. And the part of that is due to Mike Bobo. Mike Bobo just, I don't, where's he been all year? Of course, he decides to show up for the Tennessee game. Dials it up, man. Dials it up. Figures out a way to get Carson Beck into a flow, to utilize his tight ends when that receiver position was down, when you didn't have Etienne in the backfield, when you didn't have others in the backfield. And you could look at this and be even more ticked off and say, well, we really should have done it because they were without this name and that name. Whatever. It's always next man up. And if anybody's preaching that and executing it well, it's Kirby Smart. It's Kirby Smart. So stop picking us to beat a school like Georgia until we actually do it. Until it's actually done. Still a really, really, really good football team. A really good football team. Overall, though, I believe that our program is on the right trajectory. I believe we still have the right guy. I just think it's more of a your progression is more like a staircase where you're up, you plateau, you're up, you plateau, you're up, you plateau, as opposed to a straight line trajecting yourself forward, upward. Sorry. Everybody does it differently, and be honest, you guys. if you're going into the season and you are offered 10-2, you're asking where to sign. You're saying, take my money. Take it. Listen, this is assuming we beat UTEP, which we will, and assuming we beat Vanderbilt, which has me nervous just because I have flashes of 2016 in my mind. Assuming we will, another 10-2 season. I mean, we have not seen this since the early 2000s. Don't take it for granted. Don't take it for granted. So enjoy it. We beat Florida this year. We beat Bama this year. We lost it we lost in Athens at night by 14. We didn't get blown out. We didn't get slapped around. We got outcoached and we got outplayed. It wasn't a like they didn't smoke us out of the building. Like it was none of that. And I'm not a what's Butch Jones used to call losses? Gosh, getting old was hard, y'all. I'm not trying to justify the loss. That's not what's happening. I'm just trying to get you to see it through, hopefully, a different lens. And not all is not lost. Heupel's got this thing in the right direction. Interested to see what takes place on the coaching staff this offseason. Interested to see how we bounce back on Saturday. I want to see a ticked off Tennessee team on Saturday. If I'm UTEP, I'm going, oh, crap. And I want a bloodbath. Not necessarily, it doesn't even have to reflect on the scoreboard. Of course, I would love for it to, but I want to knock the crap out of them and Vanderbilt and finish the season strong and just make a case to get into the playoff. If I'm making a projection now, we're not going to get in just because they're going to hold that Arkansas loss against us and say it's a bad loss and your wins are not very good. We'll get into that at a later time. Michael's already done a really good job of tackling that anyway. Nonetheless, appreciate you guys hanging out with me and talking this thing over. At the end of the day, it's just a game. Move on. Don't let your emotions affect your life with your family and your kids and all that stuff. It's just a game. It's just a game. One that they need to correct the officiating on, but it's still just a game. My name is Dan. This is Pandemonium Reigns. Thank you so much for listening to what I have to say on this. Make sure you hit like and subscribe. I love you guys. God bless. Go Vols.
Pandemonium Reigns.